Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you back. It is Ohio Exopolitics time, and I'm your host, Mark Snyder. We've got Alexander Ramsey McKeag on the line. And how's your weekend going, my friend?
Weekend's going pretty good, Mark. Good to hear from you. Nice to be back on the air. Something weird happened today. You know those things, the rarity of a black swan?
Yeah?
Well, I don't live near any bodies of water. Nothing, well, apart from like Lake Abiquiu, that's further north. There's no swans. No swans over here in New Mexico. I'm getting my coffee that I have here in my hands. I see an all-black pigeon.
Cool.
I've never seen anything like it. Total genetic specimen. And I'm like, what's going to happen with my day? Why is this showing up right before the radio show? Is Mark going to say something that agitates me?
I would never do that. Right.
So my weekend's great.
You know what else? I do that with other guests too. Agitate them, but don't mean to. I just say whatever it is that I don't want to say who, but yeah, it's quite humorous sometimes.
You don't agitate me at all. You're not even remotely close to agitating.
But not in a negative way. I think I just kind of like get you going or something. Yeah. I do the same thing with I got a few more other guests. I do that. It's not anything I do on purpose.
Just rile them up. Get them to talk about things that get them hot and bothered. Yeah.
Now, this weekend has been interesting for me. I played at the Zanesville Farmers Market.
Oh, you did? You played live. How was it?
It was awesome. It was strange. I've done real well down there. They have like... I don't know, we had 1,200 people come through that. It's like outside. We play outside, and it's a farmer's market, so all the farmers are selling their goods and stuff. But last year, I think my best day was, tips-wise, was like $65.
It's huge.
Which is good. It's good.
It's huge.
And anyway, the guy that I play with, he plays a wood flute. Congas, sings. He works in the medical field, and he has a very stressful kind of schedule. Mm-hmm. So whenever I get him, I just think it's great, and I don't put any pressure on. If he can't make it, that's no big deal.
Yeah. What's his name?
Stoey.
Listen, it's cool if you don't show up. I'm going to be real fucking pissed, and it's going to stress me out, but it's totally fine if you can't make it because of your other job and responsibilities. But I just want to tell you, it's really going to rile me up if you can't show up. But all good if you can't be there. Not a problem. I'll handle it.
It's definitely not like that, believe me. Because I train to play by myself, and I just get people as an addition. Now, what happened? One thing that happened, you had your black swan,
black pigeon.
Black pigeon.
Yeah.
Well,
sounds like a new clothing brand for me.
Yeah, definitely Black Pigeon. That sounds good, actually.
It does. I like how I'm writing this down, actually.
Better write it down. Start a closing line.
Yeah.
So I'm playing away. This is about 45 minutes into us playing. And all of a sudden, like out of the corner of my eye, I see this. I thought she was maybe 12 or 13. She was a lot older than that, turns out. She had a violin.
Yeah.
And so I finished what I was playing, and she asked, well, can I sit in with you guys? Can I play with you guys? And I'm like, usually I don't like that sort of thing. Kind of doesn't make me happy. But I said, okay, fine. So I let her play, and we played a couple more things. And then she said, do you know all those songs you guys just played for the last 45 minutes? She goes, I know all of those.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. Wow, that's, I can't believe she's saying this. And then Stoey goes, hey, why don't we start over? Why don't we play all the stuff and with the violin added and see how it works? So we did.
She making it up?
No, she's not making it up. She would play the melody or play some little side section. I mean, it fit perfect. Like
wonderful.
Like Anyway, I won't go into all the boring details. But now, if I can just track her down, she gave us her email, but I don't think this email is correct. But it was, that's the way it always is. Something.
You used to that? Asking a woman for their number and they give you the wrong number? Hey, let me have your email. .cog. That doesn't seem right.
So I don't know. So I don't know what's going to happen there. But
Mr. Peaches, can you read this for me? This just doesn't seem accurate. Can't get this email to go through. It's bouncing back.
So are you a fan of Metallica?
I love Metallica. I play Metallica. I love it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay. This is like a major focus of my music right now. Is I play a nylon Godin guitar, nylon string, with a Bose system. And I play Metallica with no distortion.
Oh, Nothing Else Matters. Welcome Home Sanitarium. Beautiful.
Well, I'm not familiar with it. Welcome Home Sanitarium.
Mm-hmm.
I do Sandman.
Oh, Sandman's a great one. Mm-hmm.
And anyway, it's just like this weird space between classical music and
I was just meant to make a comment. I do really shitty Bach Ute song. That's not called a Ute. What the hell is the word? Doesn't matter. Really shitty Bach on guitar that I play, and then I switch over to Metallica. I flip in between. So when I get frustrated with the Bach, I go right over to Metallica. When I'm done with those riffs, I go back into Bach.
That's very cool.
That's a nice prelude.
I think it takes a while to develop a real appreciation for Metallica.
Yeah.
Because you can play their stuff and just without distortion, and it sounds beautiful. I mean, it's just really good if you get a good arrangement. But okay, I digress.
Yeah.
Major digression.
I'm upset I don't know what the name of that instrument is. I thought it was a Ute or something like that.
A lute?
Lute.
Are you talking about a lute?
Ute. Come on, give me that Ute. It's a lute, Jim.
You know what's bad about lutes?
What?
They sound great, but they're horrific to tune.
Yeah, I don't want to tune that thing.
Tuning lutes can be a nightmare. But anyway,
Looney Tunes.
We could talk about all the rest of this.
It's the competitive. Yeah, Looney Tunes was the competitive Looney Tunes. It was really just shit. Never had any viewers.
What?
Some people on the air caught that. You did not.
I did not catch that. Anyway.
So
what about Biden? Did you see did we talk about the presidential debate last time at all? Did you
I think we did talk about his level of senility and inability.
His gaffe.
Yeah.
His gaffes, yeah. Okay, and so I hear he's going to step down.
Go for it. Grip and rip.
Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I mean, John McAfee, before he died, tweeted about it, and then seems like everything's teeing up for that guy to step down. He shouldn't have been there in the first place, but that's fine.
No, he shouldn't have been.
Just mentally ill.
That too, definitely. What about the assassination attempt on Trump?
What about
it? Was it crazy? I mean, I was watching just the regular show. I didn't expect anything. Boy, all of a sudden the guns started popping and
bang, 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 bang.
Yeah. They sounded like low caliber.
When you're shooting and like there's like a camera picking up on it or viewing it, it doesn't have this. It's not the same pressure of sound, so it's not going to sound. It'll sound less.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because to me, it was sounding like somebody was shooting a 22 or something.
No, they were shooting more than that. That was the Secret Service guys are on the roof. The two snipers were shooting Lapua Magnums. I don't know what the kid was shooting.
What's the caliber on that?
Lapua's, I'll do this. Like just under sizing, it's a little bit under a 50 cal.
Whoa.
It's a big gun.
It'll blow you apart then.
It'd probably split your head in half. Or,
yeah.
50 cals would probably decapitate you, or take your arm off or something.
Have you ever seen people? I saw this before. There used to be floating around the internet people that had been shot by 50 cals.
Sure.
Oh, gross, man.
Yeah, they have some.
Way gross.
Yeah, and then it's a lot of force to be hitting a fleshy body with. So shit happens, right?
It's horrific.
Yeah,
it's horrific.
Bad way.
So my whole thing is, I don't think he should be. I think he should campaign remotely, dial in, and then just speak on the screen. If they want to get matched, they can shoot the screen.
He won't do it. You want to know why?
I don't know.
If he starts yelling "fight, fight, fight," there's not a chance that guy's going to sit behind a screen.
Well, he's just going to get killed eventually.
Yeah, just get your Secret Service to do a better job. There you go.
I hope so. You know, do you know Roger Stone? Have you ever listened to him?
No.
Look up Roger Stone.
I will.
He's a real insider. He says the Democrats are going to pick Michelle Obama to run for
Go for it.
Presidential office.
Go for it. She won't win, but that's fine.
And from what I hear, she's really a man. Have you heard that?
I've heard these things. I've heard these things from the ultra far right wing QAnon circles. People that are on Truth Social and stuff like that. They do feel that she is a man. I've heard about the stories of Barack Obama and the drug use and being with other guys. Like, I don't give a shit. Do whatever you want. I mean, if your wife's a man, whatever. I don't care. Yeah, it's honestly like it doesn't have any effect on me.
QAnon. What are your thoughts on QAnon?
I think that QAnon had a pretty strong start. I think it was the natural antithesis of the woke community. Had to happen. And I think, this is my personal opinion, I think that it is heavily anti-Semitic. I also feel that at the same time, they take on cues of, have you ever been on the app called Gaia?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, so there's a guy on there that used to be on Gaia. Trying to think of his name.
David Wilcock?
David Wilcock used to be on Gaia, and I think when he split off, he fell into these groups and these circles, and when I've heard a lot of the QAnon information, a lot of it came from many of the stories and information of like Cosmic Disclosure and other shows that David was on himself, which is a shame because, you know, David really had quite a stern focus on the Law of One material by Ra, which I loved. Mm-hmm. And honestly, he should have stuck to it, which I think was great. And, you know, David thought that he was a reincarnation, or one of his previous lives was, who was that guy? Who was that clairvoyant in the United States? Kind of looks like him. Yeah,
he looks a lot like him.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah, so here's my thing. I hear a lot of this stuff, third party, from the QAnon groups, from the Anons, you know, and stuff like that. A lot of it's incredibly illogical. A lot of stuff doesn't match up. I understand the aspects of mistrust against governments and authorities. I don't like governments. I don't like authorities. But in some respects, it takes people down a victim narrative that is very easy for them all to be a part of, especially to say that if your life has not been working out for you, it's easy to point fingers at this faceless thing, whatever it might be, and blame them for the outcomes of your life. It's very easy to fall into that, and it pulls you out of the ideas of self-responsibility, and then you become deluded and waiting on some other cosmic forces to come through and then make your life happen for you. And I think that is a very unhealthy way of operating. Is there some truth in some of the things that get shared? Absolutely, without a doubt. Is a lot of it crap? Without a doubt, right? So if you have to be strong enough to sift through it when you hear it, and then other things where it's just like, no, just got to say flat out no. But I think that the group is, you know, as a whole, as the ultra right-wing extremism, which is where QAnon likes to sit, or the Anons, talking about like shutting down the white hats and the cabal and all that other stuff. I think that they are just as dangerous in mentality and imbalance as the woke community that sits on the extreme far left. That's my personal opinion.
That's very interesting.
And Mark, I know that you listen to a lot of this stuff. I know that you're probably on True Social because of the topics you bring up to me, so I'm aware of it. I'm very sensitive to it. And I know that you try and be careful when you bridge it in here, but I do talk about some of those things, but you know my perspective.
Yeah. I'm actually not on Truth Social.
Great. We're probably on Rumble.
BitChute.
Yeah, BitChute. There, yeah, BitChute. The BitChute, Rumble, True Social sort of thing. I get it. And listen, I think censorship is ass. I'm glad those applications exist. Do it. But people also need to be strong in their ability to recognize what is true and what is not true at the same time.
Boy, you really got me thinking here. QAnon. QAnon, do you think that comes from the deep state, or is that
absolutely? Listen,
now, how do you define deep state? Is what I would.
There's only one deep state. The deep state is the Central Intelligence. No.
CIA,
the Central Intelligence Agency. The Central Intelligence Agency. They're in every aspect of finance. Anything that has a pulse on societal triggers, they're the ones that drive it. Okay. And what's really interesting about how they operate is they don't have to like deliberately be in there and like force their hand. They're very, very gentle and they're delicate. And now that we've come up with these systems, they know how to push people gently in those systems without actually having to be out there and just like do active face-to-face manipulation. You know what I mean? And the deep state is somebody that removes themselves from the perceived America, right? How we operate. They're the underground fabric that makes things happen. The substrata.
Very thought-provoking. You talked about Ra, which is Egyptian god, correct? Egyptian deity?
So in the Egyptian religion, Ra, the sun god,
literally, yeah.
If you were to think in a monotheistic sense, yes,
Yeah.
I am talking about Ra, R-A. And what I was expressing further regard to David Wilcock comes from a mid-1970s three-person group channel of Don Elkins, Carla Rueckert, and Jim McCarty in Kentucky. And this group put together, essentially you would say, reports of a deep hypnotic trance channel between Carla and the Raw Social Memory Complex Collective.
Social Memory Complex Collective.
Do you want me to explain it?
Sure.
You have, Mark, an overall consciousness block, right? You have this greater piece of you that
absolutely.
You get impulses through the power of your spirit, right? It creates this bridge from the OCB, using the spirit to your unconscious, up through the subconscious, and hopefully, if Mark's paying enough attention, those impulses come to the forefront, his consciousness, and he can act upon them. That's rare, right? You have to be pretty in tune for that. Now, this thing sits in a realm that is close to creation. Okay? It takes a long time to go back to the union of creation to be one with it. Now, this energy, these OCBs, these people call them oversouls, higher selves, whatever you want to call them, they're connected like a big ocean. And they're all exchanging waves. Now, when a species of human, in some respects, becomes so evolved over time, they lose their bodies. Body's not necessary, just going to work in spirit energy. Well, they start to move into this upper sixth density level, right? Really high up in evolution, post like Arahat Atharsada. When they're up there, there is a union of thought. They understand the benefits of unity. So they, as a whole, are an independent thing. But when they consider something, they consider it all together, all of the entities interlinked by, say, like this giant collective of overall consciousness blocks. And then you have this super overall consciousness block, if you want to look at it like that. And they come together and think and deliberate and can do their things and then can answer. And so this group of three people that were in Kentucky were channeling this very, what they call fine band. And you say fine band because it's such a precise spiritual tuning, essentially. It's an easy way for me to describe it. It's like if you were tuning that guitar or that lute with so much precision, it's so difficult to get there. That's where this group is found. And it takes a lot of energy to connect with it. So over the course of many, many years, right, this group of three people had a conversation with this social memory complex, this thing called Ra. It has no gender, nothing. And it is a very advanced species or entities that had evolved past their bodies to become this unified, energetic collective that was sharing information back down with these 3 human beings. So that's what I'm describing.
That's a lot to really absorb.
Well, here's the cool part. You want to know how I fell into the Meier case? So 5 books were published over the course of many years. And they have the audio recordings of her, Carla, laying on the table going through the trans-channeling state. Now, it's very rare to find real channelers in this world. They are super, super rare. I think, like Meier had said, you can count on one hand how many there are on planet Earth. Many of them are charlatans, frauds, everything else. Now, like I have previously done with the Meier material, I absolutely tore through the raw material, ripped it apart. Incredible. Spectacular. Wonderful.
Oh, you enjoyed it.
Mathematically balanced. Absolutely fantastic. So precise. Wonderful. And there were 5 books that were published. And in the 5th book, there was one sentence, that asked about the Meier material. One.
Really?
And I thought to myself, well, I've gone through all this. Why the hell, the questioner, Don Elkins, before he killed himself, why is he asking about that? What is this thing? And that's how I fell into the Meier material. That's where I found it.
What was he asking?
Don was asking about, he said he had asked the Raw Collective, do you know of this gentleman, Billy Edward Albert Meier, in Switzerland, who has had a contact with these Federation members called the Plejaren? And Ra had responded in some respects. And when I say Ra is responding, this is a social memory complex, okay? It's something else. It's non-physical. It's a group. Like, it's a bunch of brains stitched together, essentially, if you want to think about it like that in a physical form. They said, yes, we know who it is. We will not comment on whether this contact is positive or negative, which is talking about the Plejaren contact with Billy Meier. But we will also say that they are not, the Plejaren, a part of the almost like a separate Federation collective that the Ra group is a part of. Does that make sense? You know, you have the larger Federation, billions of people that the Plejaren have, they sit at the center of, and they help out all these other groups on different planets. There are other groups, right? They're not the only ones. So they said, we won't comment on it. We will not judge them, because if you go with the raw material, they don't judge at all. It's fabulous. But it does talk about the Meier material. And when they brought it up and they said, we're not going to have any judgment on it, we won't say whether it's positive or negative, but they did affirm that it is in fact a contact. So I was like, oh, I'll check that out. And then lo and behold, I'm like, wow, this Meier material is fantastic too. This is great.
That's how you got in there.
That's how I got in there. It was one sentence. I didn't know what the fuck it was. And I was like, what is this? I looked it up. And when I first read the Meier material, I'm like, fuck this. Like,
you did?
Yeah. I'm like, fuck this shit. That's literally what I said. I'm like, the way this guy talks, I'm serious. I'm like, the way this guy talks, what he's saying, I was like, get out of here. It was agitating. Wow. And then he did exactly what he needed to do. Going. Yeah, he did. I was like, damn. And then I started to read more. And I was like, oh, man, he's on it. He's just talking about shit that I've been thinking about in my head, but he's just been writing it down on paper. You know what I mean? Wow. Yeah. And sometimes you don't want to hear the stuff that you have in your head. You're like, and I remember in the very earliest of days, I was like, no way. But yeah, that's how I fell into it.
What the one thing that kind of clicked in my mind when you were talking about that is you talked about the overall consciousness block. And I believe our spirit form creates the overall consciousness block.
Yeah, it's a requirement. It has to be there. So yeah, someplace, you know what an Akashic record is?
Yeah.
Think about it like a mini Akashic record from Mark Snyder.
No, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, because the Akashic record is storing everything, right? But the OCB is only storing just like those core key impulses, all those great things, right? That were there, only the stuff that's going to be evolutive for you.
Yeah, and this gets really kind of involved because there's an overall consciousness block, correct?
That's correct.
And then there's a consciousness block.
Which you have right now. So
yeah,
it's like having the boss, right? You're in a factory, and you're doing the work. You're like a little laborer, a little union guy, right? Whittling stuff down. The boss is watching, and the boss sees everything that is occurring. It's pulling all that information, so the boss can make decisions to send that back down, so that all the worker bees know exactly what they should be doing. Because the worker bees aren't really paying attention to the guys in the other sections, right? No, it's like you in this current life. I'm not paying attention to my other lives. I'm paying attention to this current one. But the overall, the OCB, the boss, the boss is like, oh, hey, send an impulse down there to Mark. Tell Mark he should be turning that on the lathe in the other direction. You know what I mean? Like here's a better impulse for you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do simple metaphors, so it brings it down to earth here.
No, this is very good. The consciousness block then consists of our ego, our personality, our material consciousness.
Yeah.
But the overall consciousness kind of links all our other lives.
All of them. High up, all linked together. And if you're sensitive enough, if you know how to meditate and use the power of speaking to your spirit in a form of prayer or whatever, you can connect with it.
Do you think you've done that?
Absolutely, 100%.
How did you know? What tipped you off? Like, you would know if something like that worked. You probably. Is it hard to articulate?
No.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with this. Mark, you ever, those disposable cameras and you crank them? You know what I'm talking about? Just the cheap ones you get at like a CVS or something.
Yeah. That was a long time ago, right?
Okay. Someone takes a picture of you. Do you remember that flash it would leave in your eyes? It's called bleaching the rods. Okay, you have these rods in your eyes, these cones. These cones that pick up on all these different colors and sensitivities and light. Now, if you get a really bright flash, it stores it in there. Now, the best way I can describe it is, that feeling, right? You see that dot, it's like, go away, from the flash. Imagine for a moment you're meditating with your eyes closed in the pitch black. All right? Now, no camera flash goes off, but an image shows up. And it burns into your vision, almost with the same effect like someone taking a camera shot of you. You know what I'm talking about? You tracking?
Yeah.
So at first, when I was meditating, years ago, I'm like, what is that? What the fuck is that? It's dark in this room. What's this light? And I was like, I had to think about it. Like, where's this coming from? Okay. Must be my mind's eye, right? This is my first assumptive thought. All right. Meditation, it grows over the years. And then I'm like, I'm starting to see symbols. It's weird. I'm not thinking about anything in particular, but I got a symbol.
Seeing them in your mind's eye?
I'm seeing them in my mind's eye, and they're coming up, not in color, but in the aspect of like someone took a camera flash. It's that level of brightness in the darkness. Okay? Like bleached like that. That's what it looks like. And then the pictures become more clear over time. Like that. They're not in color, but they're more clear. And then I record them. I write them down. Oh, that's really cool. It's a cool image. I draw it out. Draw what my mind saw. And then I learn about these things about, my spirit and the gemut and the overall consciousness block and the connection between me and, my higher self, essentially, and using my spirit to connect with it. Then my attitude changed. Where I look at my body as a tool. It's just here. Yeah, I have a personality and all these great things, but I almost, in some respects, recognize a division between my spirit and my body. They're here, unified as one, but I understand that my spirit does not have the personality which Alexander is. So when I recognize that, I start to have conversations with it, with my spirit, this thing. Doesn't have a name. And then I started asking it. I started playing around during meditation. Hey, show me an impulse of X, Y, or Z. Then it starts to bring an image to the forefront. I don't know what the fuck it is, right? And I write them down, and then later, maybe I'm flipping through books, or I see something, or an event happens in my life. I'm like, holy shit, I wrote this down. I had asked about this, and this showed up. This is exactly what I saw in my mind's eye. And you know what you do at that moment, Mark? You go all in. You're like, okay, give it all to me. And so what I found is that as it is advanced over time through my meditation and communication, the images are no longer static. They're moving. And they're no longer just a single color, like that flash of white. They are full color. And it's quite a remarkable thing. And I wouldn't say full color as in like a full color scene, like I'm looking out across a lush valley. I would say that it's a targeted, isolated zone of full color with movement. But there's no peripheral stuff. And I'm assuming that in the future, it'll start to feel more and more like a full dream state. You track? So for me, over time, I have found that the conversations with my spirit allow me to connect with these things and pull up these impulses. And whatever these impulses might be, I'm not really sure what they all are, but they seem to be helpful in some respects. And when I recognize them, I lean into it because the spirit's not going to do anything that would be damaging to me. It just wants me to evolve. It wants to evolve. So I have full trust in this thing, which resides inside of me, paying room and board to my body by giving it life. And I have conversations with it.
And how does it answer you back?
Never speaks to you. Now,
you never get anything audible. You get images.
No. Yeah, understand this. In the language of the cosmos or creation, do you think English is spoken everywhere or German?
No, it's images. It's like visual.
Correct. Right? Why do you think art is so impactful to so many people? Because anybody can read it. It's art. It's a visual image. It's symbology. And that's how creation speaks at the same time, in symbols. So what your spirit gives you back, if you begin to recognize it, are symbols. Does it all the time.
Doesn't Billy talk about
52 million symbols? A little bit more than that, Mark, is what you're going to ask.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you can buy a book that has about 700 in it, somewhere around there, called The Symbols of the Spirit Teaching. And I have the book, but they are specific things. And there's tons of them because creation needs to communicate in the vast and endless variability of creation itself. And so to understand all of those recorded aspects of essentially this grand cosmos, Akashic record, you pull down, and if you can understand the smallest parts of a symbol, right? Why does it have that wave? Why that circle? Why that square? Why that specific? Why that nuance? Why that direction? And then you see how those things layer in. Well, now you get like almost the complexity of ideas shared within a single symbol. And that's why symbols are so powerful, because I don't have to speak a whole sentence. I can show you one symbol, and it can explain everything. That's the beauty of it.
Okay, I'm going to kind of jump back a little bit just to kind of go back through some things to make sure it's clear. We were talking about Ra, the Egyptian deity, but there's also another deity or ET, or his name is Thoth.
Thoth. Yeah, the bird, the one with the bird beak.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about him.
Oh, you're really pressing my knowledge on ancient Egypt. Thoth was a magician in some respects. Very learned, I would say almost scientific. Okay, very wise. Timekeeper of the of ancient Egypt. Alchemical in some respect, Mark, I would probably like describe this individual. He was not a supreme deity, but he was someone that was definitely considered advanced and wise and knew much of the, how we would describe it today as like hermetic material, as above, so below. You track with me on that?
Now, I've heard that Thoth, if he might be an extraterrestrial, I assume, I don't know, but that he lived thousands of years.
I don't doubt that. Honestly,
you don't doubt that?
No, come on. We poisoned ourselves so much over time, and at that point, there's a lot of older wisdom. So people are like, "Yeah, I should chill, relax, meditate, be peaceful." I'm eating better things, and I probably have a different genetic lineage, so I could live a long time. Who knows?
Emerald. There's something about the emerald stones too in Thoth.
Oh, the emerald
right?
tablets.
The tablets, yeah.
So the emerald tablets have some pretty cool info. It's used by the Rosicrucians. It's used by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It's used by these occult groups because these tablets have like stored old information that have been passed down for a long time. And some of them also have stories, which can be found in the books that were not actually published with the Bible, but were precursors to it, that some African tribes still hold very close to home for themselves to say that this is the cosmic creation story for them. Have you seen some of the Emerald Tablets, the writing in it?
Yeah, but it seems like it was very brief.
I'll send you some pics.
Okay, yeah.
I got some old books. I got some old books that have some stuff in it for what the occult groups would study.
So you think Thoth and Ra were real people? Is that true?
I wouldn't describe it like that. I would say Thoth was probably a real person, right? I would say Ra was a group of people.
It was more of a religion then.
It's a collective. No, not a religion. Just a collective of people. Like these are Earth humans. These are Ra humans. Okay. And then over time they left their half physical, half spiritual bodies, and then went just full spirit body.
Now the pyramids, according to the Meier material, are like 73,000 years old.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there was some technology going on back then.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if you want to comment on that at all.
Well, I'll comment this. If you read the raw material and you read the Meier material, they are congruent in
pretty much
their independent assessments of the age of the pyramids and how they were built.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
So that's something worth checking out. But the pyramids were built in the capacity to save civilizations at that time, very long time ago, from the deluges or the impending dooms that were coming their way. If there was a sun
destroyer comet,
there was a son, an S-O-N, of some emperor that was
I remember that.
Who was very in tune with things and was saying, "Hey, we got to build this. We got to preserve our people. Blah blah blah. We could build this fucking thing. Get the slaves on it." And they got it built. Using whatever tech that they have. I don't know. They probably borrowed something. They probably received help from other people. I have to go back and check the names because it's escaping me right now.
Right. It's a fascinating story.
It's wonderful. And you know what's so cool about the pyramids? I've never seen them in person. It's a giant fucking pyramid made out of stone. It's so cool. It's just there. It's so precise. It's ridiculously well built. For
millions of blocks too, right?
Yeah, it's just incredible. It's just an incredible feat of strength, truly.
So I was just trying to fit Ra into this. So now you clarified Ra, which is good. And Thoth was more of an individual. Sometimes I think of Ra as an individual, but
it's a collective.
Not be the case.
Yeah, collective.
It's a collective. Right. And I'm jumping all over here, so sorry about that. Elaborate on the Gamut if you have anything in your memory that's...
Sure. You know how we have a psyche, you and me, Mark?
Sure.
Everything in creation has to have its counterpart, right? It's a law of creation. It has to have its opposites. So much like we have our physical, material psyche over here, there's a spiritual psyche too.
So that's our spiritual. Okay, gotcha.
Now what's interesting about this is if you think about Billy Edward Albert Meier, his spirit is called Nocodemion. That's the name. That's the name. That's the psyche, whatever it takes on, and his Gamut over there takes on that name. I don't know where the name comes from. I'm interested to know who named it or if the spirit chose it itself. I think that's pretty cool. It also opens up an interesting can of worms for me, which I had sent a letter over to Meier anyway, waiting for his response.
Did he respond?
Not yet. I mean, he'd been sick. He will respond though.
Billy?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But I would say the questions are a little bit further out on things where I'm looking for specifics. But when I get the specific, it opens up a whole swath of knowledge that I've been ignoring because I don't want to pursue it until I have a specific answer on it.
So we have the psyche is more of the material consciousness. The Gemut is more the spiritual consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't the Gemut, though, somehow involved with the notion of these swinging waves? They're electromagnetic energies, which can be very powerful, correct?
They are extremely powerful. Think about radiation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to stand inside a nuclear reactor, do you?
No.
It's got a bunch of swinging waves in it. You don't want to get hit by those. It is it's a frequency, Mark. That's what it is. And frequencies can be stored. So the psyche, this Gemut, this spiritual psyche, this counterpart, has storage in some respects of something. Am I curious to what mine would call itself? Yeah. Definitely. I definitely want to know. Right? I would love to know all about my Gemut, but I haven't pursued that yet. I think there's one book, it might be the book called The Psyche, or it might be in the Might of Thoughts. There's a chart that was designed that breaks down the consciousness, or no, I should say that, the material side of life and the spiritual side of life for the consciousness, the overall consciousness block, subconscious, unconscious, psyche, and Gemut, and how those things communicate back and forth. It's definitely worth studying. And Mark, I would actually probably post a picture on your BitChute that highlights it.
That's a thought.
Yeah.
So these swinging waves, you know what always came in my mind, and this may not be correct.
What?
That you know how we have these birds. Birds are connected in large flocks, and fish are in these schools, and they move together, and they can turn on a dime. And I always wondered if they had some spiritual connection, kind of like we do, having a Gemut. I don't know if animals do.
No.
Don't think so?
No, the way they are turning is based on really sensitive material impulses that are occurring between the group.
Okay.
They're instinct driven, and the instincts have been so fine tuned over time. Now, for us, we wrestle between our instincts and our conscious waking thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we may feel something that says, I should go over here and do this. But then your mind is saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Now, for them, they're just strictly instinct driven, right? Instinct impulse driven. That's the difference here. That's why they can turn
that makes
on a dime
sense,
as a group. Yeah.
So, but it just goes to show you, even material impulses are pretty incredible if you just master those.
All you got to do is listen. That's it. You just listen. Your body speaks to you all the time. Say you eat something, Mark, and you don't feel good. You get indigestion.
Sure.
Your body is telling you, Mark, don't fucking eat this anymore. Please.
Right.
Everything is speaking to you, but we consciously ignore it. We're not listening. We don't get the wax out of our damn ears to listen to what our body's trying to tell us, right? Or our environment or anything else. And that's a shame. And then over time, and it won't stop, it'll always tell you, but over time we just continue to damage ourselves because we're ignorant of the information that's right in front of us that our body is saying, hey, this is not in your best interest. Don't do it. Don't even eat it. Who cares how much the craving is?
What you're saying here has an application because, people, if you get a whole culture of people that are not able to even listen to their material impulses that are coming into their psyche, then we get idiots and lunatics, and that's how we get so much war and this whole thing with Russia and Zelensky. And, if anybody would listen to their impulses, they would say, hey, we need to stop doing this, correct?
Yeah, if you're... Say, for instance, you're Napoleon, okay?
Right.
What did Napoleon do? Did he go out and charge the field with his men?
Well, one of the things he did is he shot at the Sphinx, right?
Yeah. All right, come on, hold on. Let's stay on track here.
Okay.
There was a time when people who would lead wars would stand out in front of it, the leaders.
Oh, I know.
But now society has transitioned to send people to war. So the leaders send their troops rather than being with their troops. The detachment or disassociation of the pain of death and the brutality and the gruesomeness of war is removed because it's out of sight, out of mind in some respects, and you don't feel the emotional pains or traumas or swinging waves of other men that are dying next to you slamming into your body at the same time. And so then it's easy to just walk into the world of politics and then use people like cannon fodder rather than understanding, oh, my body is mortal. It's sensitive. It's not as strong as I think it is. And if I went to war, there's a high chance of me dying. Well, if I don't want to be out here, why would I send other people to do this? Why am I killing these other people? This doesn't feel good. You don't have to go through that thought process anymore. So the ease of war and the ease of killing has doubled down on itself in today's time, which is a shame.
You know, I found Contact Report 890, where Billy talks about a lot of the stuff that's going on in Ukraine and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think of Zelensky as a puppet?
Absolutely. Anybody that works with NATO is a puppet. North American Treaty Organization, pretty much run by the United States of America as their extended police arm of the United States to put themselves in international territories that they should not be in and exercise their hegemonical attitude amongst other nations and oppress their peoples. That's what they do. So if you're jiving with NATO, you're jiving with the wrong shit. You're driving with the instigator. You're driving with the big bully in town. It's bad.
The left supports the war in Kiev or Ukraine, whatever you want to call it. But there's also a part of the Republicans or the right wing that also supports this war.
Sure, anybody who's in the interest of making money will support it.
That seems to be part of it, or a major part of it.
That's the only part of it. There's so much money. There's so much money made in defense, Mark. It's crazy. The budgets for it. I mean, people want war. The Rothschilds knew this when they funded the North and the South during the American Civil War. They got it.
Well, they funded both.
They fund both sides. Why fund one when you can fund both? They both have to pay you back. It doesn't matter who wins or loses. They don't give a shit.
Right. But it's good to hear Billy call Zelensky a warmonger.
Well, he is a warmonger. Nobody should want war.
But it's weird because it seems that we do want war, or at least a certain part of us.
Some people want it. Some people who never even step foot on a battlefield want it.
I know, that's what's really crazy.
That's the crazy part.
You see some of these politicians.
Yeah, Mark, you ever been shot at?
Well, I've had bullets come in my.
Yeah, but has anyone ever shot at you?
They weren't intentionally shooting at me.
It's not cool, man.
It's not a good feeling.
It's not a good feeling hearing this thing that sounds like a little bee buzz by you. You know what I mean? It's not cool. It's really not cool. It's
Have you had people shooting at you?
Sure. I've had my fair share living in Philadelphia. I've had people shoot at me out here. It's just not cool. And I wouldn't want to point, I understand the necessity of weapons, but man, to go to war and just like start wailing on each other with this stuff, it's just so fucked up. It really is. Such a bad feeling. No one reveres life like they should. And this is one thing that Albert Schweitzer, you know who he is?
That's so true, yeah.
Albert Schweitzer was this incredible philanthropist, spent a lot of time in Africa building hospitals and helping the people there. Wonderful, wonderful human being. He's written some incredible works. But he had nailed it. He said it all really does boil down to this reverence for life. If you cannot respect life at its largest example and its smallest example, you're gonna miss it all, and you'll just find your own self-destruction essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Just every single part of it, every thought, every human being, every relationship, every bug, all of those aspects. You have to love and understand it for what it is. You have to revere it and respect it. But we don't do that. We just don't respect life enough. The fact that we even make, nuclear threats is such a crazy,
Insanity.
psychotic, insane detachment from reality with no respect for life whatsoever. Those people clearly don't respect their own lives if they even peddle in that sort of game. You can't expect them to do the right thing for you if they're even making those comments. I don't have political views. All I have is a view on the protection and evolution of humankind. I don't give a shit about anything else. And if whatever you're doing, left, right, center, extremist, if it goes against those things, it's just wrong. It's just flat out fucking wrong.
So we have an evolutive attitude. We should have an evolutive attitude to promote evolution.
Yes, we need an outlook that is evolutive, an Einstellung, right?
Einstellung. That's a very good word. I love that word.
Mm-hmm. Very, very good word, right? We need that focus. We need that point out there. We need that positive but equalized and healthy outlook of where we need to be. You got to do it. And we should fight for that rather than fight each other.
Yeah, it's usually translated as evolutive attitude, but I like it. I think mindset is also a good way to look at it.
Well, yeah, but you can also have a really bad mindset, right? That could be damaging to you.
Yeah, you could have I guess you call it a negative or a false evolutive. What does he call that? He has a term for that when you have, it's not really an evolutive attitude.
No.
Like you're pursuing unripe ideas.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love the word ripe.
Yeah, it is. So the whole idea is we should be working through, we should be contemplating our ideas and then looking at the values or the unvalues in them.
Right.
And the problem is we have unvalues that we think are good and we hold on to them.
Mm-hmm.
And, they can be like war, for example.
Yeah, we're just holding a grudge against somebody.
Yeah.
People bitch and moan about war. I get it. But guess what? You're at war with the relationships in your own household. You're at war with yourself. How can you assume global peace if you can't handle the peace internally? People forget that all things evolve and grow in seclusion by themselves, in quiet isolation. And
is that true?
Yes.
That's fascinating.
All the greatest things start there. And so
you should repeat that. I think that's profound. Yeah. All things grow in
all of the greatest
isolation.
things grow in seclusion and isolation. The greatest things. And your mind with your thoughts, that's where those things grow first. And then after that, you find peace within yourself. Then you have peace in relationships with others. Then with your neighbors. And then after your neighbors, you have it with your cities, and then your peoples, and then other peoples in other nations.
I love that. I could hear that again if you don't mind repeating it. The part about in seclusion is where you start the growth.
Yeah. In quiet seclusion and isolation is where the greatest things grow, right? The greatest
is that straight from Meier's book?
I think.
Or is it just something?
What's the term for? It's like what he's saying, but it's not exactly it.
Okay, it's close enough. It's
close
really
enough. Yeah, it's cool, but it's true.
I don't know how it happens, but we're gone, buddy.
Time, man.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, listen, much love, Mark. Thank you for having me on the show again. I really appreciate it.
Save it for us.
Will do. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.